Sydney. Sorry. I would also like to acknowledge Auntie Rhonda and the work that she does to support us and School Strike for Climate as an elder. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past and present and recognise the continuity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's connection to and protection of country. So First Nations justice is absolutely intrinsic to climate justice. This movement is fighting on stolen land, and we cannot achieve climate justice without justice for First Nations people. And to introduce myself, my name is Leela, and I am a 16-year-old Warramai woman from the Port Stephens area, currently speaking from Wongal Gadigal country, and I am here standing for Wrong, aka Sydney.
Hi, my name is Ella. I'm 17 years old and I'm on Darawal country, the land of the Wadi Wadi mob in Wollongong, and we will be your MCs for the next hour. We are all here today because our government has continued to prioritise the fossil fuel industry over our futures, workers, communities, Indigenous peoples and young people. We're continuing to demand no new coal, gas or oil projects, including the Adani mine, 100% renewable energy generations and exports by 2030, the funding of a just transition and job creation for all fossil fuel workers and their communities. And we're demanding that our leaders commit to net zero by 2030 or 2035 at the upcoming COP26 summit, which Scott Morrison just confirmed he will be attending.
So Scott Morrison continues to fund coal and gas, well knowing the devastating consequences this will have on our climate. It's clear the government doesn't care about the climate crisis, and they will continue to subsidise and support the fossil fuel industry. Just last week, Susan Ley approved 3 coal mines, and as the Environment Minister, she has a duty of care to young people, and just even in her role as an Environment Minister, to ensure we are mitigating and solving the climate crisis, working towards a sustainable and safe future.
So thank you all for coming as we continue the fight for climate justice, even in this difficult time. Although we're online, there's still so much action and change that we can create. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ali Bragg. Ali is a 14-year-old striker from Anawan land, which is also known as Armidale, New England. She's been striking since 2018 and started organising strikes in early 2020. She lives in the middle of the Australian bushland and has experienced firsthand the impacts of droughts and fires on her area. So Ali, why do you think young people are so passionate about achieving climate justice?
Hi, I think young people, our generation, Generation Z, are really looking more at climate change and the climate crisis because we're a lot more, we're aware, we have more conversations. We're having conversations over social media, in classrooms, with our friends about climate change and big things that are happening. So more people are becoming part of things like School Strike for Climate and learning about things. I don't think it's really an option not to know about it at this point. Climate change is such a big threat. We all have to know about it and take action. So I think it's really great that people are passionate about it, and I think it's something that we can keep building.
That is such an amazing answer. And if you don't mind me asking, how has the climate crisis impacted you personally?
Yeah, so funnily enough, last night, Armidale, where I live, had a tornado sweep through it, which I'm pretty sure is the first tornado we've ever had. I've never known Armidale to have weather like that. It ripped through the town, destroying houses, ripping up cars, tearing down trees, and it was devastating. I've got people who are they were so scared, you know, with this massive storm sweeping through. It's debilitated people, so they can't go and get groceries, they can't get supplies, people can't get to school in some areas. So droughts, floods and fires aren't the only extreme weather events we have. You can get things like tornadoes, which it's really scary for a lot of people here. So yeah, but something that's happened to me personally is in the 2019 droughts and fires. I live in a large property of bushland in Anawan land, Armidale, New South Wales, and it was so horrible in the drought to see everything around me, all the native trees, plants, animals dying. I live in a field of skeletons now. The trees, they've all died. And that is so sad to have to live in a place where I wake up and I look outside and it's just sadness. Like, it wasn't like that when I was born. It wasn't like that when I was 6 or 7, but it is now. And it's partially ruined the landscape that I live in, and it's really sad. And I remember when the fires were really screaming across New South Wales, I went up to the top of my hill where I live and I looked out over the mountain range and I saw a fire coming towards us, and it was a very scary moment in my life. And I can't imagine what it would be like for people whose houses did get destroyed. And I had to cart water with my family from 20 kilometers away just so I could drink. So it would have been so hard to put out that fire with the limited amount of water that we had. So I'm just, thinking, what is going to happen next time? What if the fire does rip through my house? What if the droughts do kill all the animals around where I live? And what if next time the tornado doesn't narrowly miss me? What if it tears up my house? I just don't know what's going to happen next time, and it is really scary for me.
Ollie, your story is so impactful, and I think it really shows that we talk about climate change as if it's something that's going to occur in the future, but I feel like your story shows that this is something that is affecting vulnerable communities today. So thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.
And so just on that note, in your opinion, what are the next steps you want to see the Australian government take to deal with the climate crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know all of us really want to see the government funding and approving way more renewable energy than they are. And we want them to stop funding and approving fossil fuel mines. I don't know if I have to reiterate that even more, that is everything. They need to stop. And we also need them to create a smooth transition for all fossil fuel workers into the renewable energy sector. There are so many jobs in the renewable energy sector that people in fossil fuel jobs could move into. It's so possible. We just need the help of the Australian government. And I think what I would really like to reiterate is to the Australian government is soon, Generation Z or generation I'm in, we are soon going to be able to vote. And we want them to know that by not taking any action on climate change, you are really putting our futures at risk. You're destroying our futures. So we need change. We need you to make change. It's not a want, it's a need.
Just realised I'm on mute. Thank you so much, Ali, for speaking to us about your experiences of the climate crisis and the things you want to see done. So now, everybody, this is sort of something for us all. We're all going to be doing an email/call jam. And basically, we want to absolutely flood the inboxes of Scott Morrison, Anthony Albanese, and Susan Ley. And in the chat, a guide has been sent out about how to send an email as well as a call script. So the contact details and information about these MPs are also in the link set. So just down below on Zoom, check it out. I think, is there a way to sort of, oh yeah, and now it's up on
Hang on. By a jumbo jet. It wasn't easy, but nothing is. No. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please I need ya.
Rain, make it rain, girl, make it. 매주 하는 생각. What if it's just me? 영화 한 편 끝나듯이.
By a jumbo jet. It wasn't easy, but nothing is. No. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please I need ya.
Alrighty. So thank you. Incredible work, everyone. So with Scott Morrison's continuous refusal to commit to net zero emission targets, it's so important that we continue to pressure our leaders, even amidst this pandemic, reminding them that what they're doing about the climate crisis is simply nowhere near good enough. So I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Jamie Newland. Jamie is currently the Assistant National Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia. They've spent their career working in the maritime industry, first as a seafarer and then a wharfie, before being elected as a union official. Some of the work they've done in the climate movement is whilst the South Australia Branch Secretary Outbranch was a leading union voice in the opposition to the Nuclear Waste Royal Commission and subsequent opposition to intermediate level waste being stored on First Nations Barngala land near Kimber. So, Jamie, what does a just transition mean to workers for you? Oh, sorry, Jamie. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I thought you were in control of the mute button. Great opportunity. Thank you for having me, both Layla and Ella. I'd also like to acknowledge beforehand that I'm coming today from the land of the Kaurna people in South Australia and pay my respects to their elders past and present. This land was never ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And I'd just also like to acknowledge that wonderful acknowledgement of country that Layla mentioned earlier as well. So just to your question, a just transition for workers is incredibly important. My union understands the impact of climate change and the need to rapidly reduce emissions to ensure global warming does not exceed 1.5 degrees. And we know that the current proposal for net zero emissions by 2050 is probably too late. We know this will have a significant impact on many of our members and our communities. But ultimately, we must do this for you, students currently, and our future generations. Our ability to provide climate leadership for and a just transition for workers and their communities is essential. We're a significant reduction to workers' living standards and deepening inequality and political backlash. You know, currently we do have members who work in offshore oil and gas and coal ports, and we need to develop policy that delivers, a just transition for workers. So that means essentially that those workers in fossil fuel industries have a job guarantee, and that they have a good job and a good union job to go to in new industries. So we think that the government or government authorities in particular need to plan for this transition and invest in communities that will be impacted. We need public investment and ownership in building the new zero emissions infrastructure we need to ensure that it's properly planned and is built as quickly as possible. How is it that we can spend billions of dollars on nuclear submarines but very little on climate action? It's ridiculous. So we really appreciate the serious way that School Strike for Climate has taken on the issue of a just transition. It allows us to support you and participate in your actions, which otherwise would be difficult.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely good to have unions involved. I think it makes us sort of a lot more powerful as a group, just working hand in hand, because once again, this is an everybody issue. So we should all be, on the side of working towards taking effective action. So what would you say in particular, like the union movement and MUA is doing in the climate space?
That's a great question. I think importantly, we're trying to take on the lies from the government that climate action will destroy jobs. I think that's critical. And as I just mentioned, we have members in fossil fuel industries that we're trying to support to new just transition and good jobs. During the last bushfire season, and I know Ali spoke earlier about the devastation to her community, but our members were on crewed ships that delivered emergency supplies and evacuated people from the beach in Malakuta. We sheltered people on tugboats at the wharf in Eden. Some of our members lost their homes, as with many other people of the community. So we saw the devastation of those bushfires. We see that that's a result of climate change to a degree. We also had 400 of our delegates and members at our national conference in March 2020 that passed strong climate policy support action. And so, you know, they're leaders, not only in their workplaces, but some in their communities as well. So that's pretty important from our perspective. You know, we obviously participate in the school strike for climate movement. I spoke to the Adelaide Rally in 2019 when we were all allowed to meet pre-COVID, which was wonderful, in front of 20,000 people. And it's that collective action that we know, and I think Ella spoke of in her opening statements, that are absolutely essential to change policy in this country, which is important. The other thing, of course, is that we need to be spending money on renewable energy, and especially offshore wind, which I think you're going to ask me a question about going forward. But ultimately, we're working to identify that, you know, future jobs for our members, and working to ensure they'll be good, safe union jobs.
Thank you. Yes, so as you were just mentioning, so I know that MUA is currently fighting for offshore wind to be legislated. So do you mind expanding on that, explaining, telling us a bit about that stuff? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. As everyone probably might have known or might have seen, if they've ever been in a car driving through the countryside, you often see large wind turbines to generate electricity. And there is a need for legislation to allow that to occur. But right now in Australia, we don't have any legislation for offshore wind generation, so those large offshore wind turbines. And we've been lobbying very hard with the ETU, the Electrical Trade Union, to have the government implement an offshore energy infrastructure bill that will allow the construction of offshore wind turbines to create massive amounts of electricity and build, you know, green new industries in the process. They'll also help deliver good paying, good union jobs as we see that. So there's enormous potential for this. At the moment, there's one example off the coast of Victoria, which is the entity that are probably the most advanced in their preparation, waiting for the legislation to come in. And that's the Star of the South, that could supply up to 20% of Victoria's electricity in one project alone. And we know there are more than 10 projects proposed in Australia at the moment. And each one is about the size of a large coal-fired power station. So if we can deliver those types of energy infrastructure, renewable energy infrastructure, Australia is going to be in a far better place, and helping deliver net zero emissions much quicker. And I might just add, sorry, that, you know, none of the offshore wind projects can proceed unless the government passes this new legislation. And it's only in the last couple of weeks that a draft bill has been presented. It doesn't deliver everything we want, but it's something that we need to see occur quickly. And we think over time we'll be able to improve the legislation, again, through collective action and making sure that any new renewable projects, renewable energy projects, engage Australian labour, Australian manufacturing, new green energy type manufacturing as well. So hydrogen and you know, green hydrogen to fuel steel plants, etc. So there's plenty of opportunities there. It's just hard to get Angus Taylor and this current government to change legislation now, but we'll continue to keep campaigning in that space and to support you guys. So it's quite wonderful to see so many young people engaged in this space, and the fact that you've delivered once again continue to deliver a wonderful demonstration of collective spirit to get your voices heard.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for being an active supporter in this movement. We really appreciate it, and just for coming and speaking with us today. It's been really informative, and just thank you so much for all of your work with climate justice.
No, wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's awesome.
Thank you. So now we are extremely excited and humbled to welcome an absolute icon in the Australian music industry. Here to perform for us is the amazing writer, entrepreneur, and musician, Jack River. As a 4-time ARIA and APRA nominated artist, Jack River has established her place in Australia's indie pop scene and is poised to make waves globally with her new set of music. Her song, We Are the Youth, is an incredibly empowering protest anthem that represents a new generation of activists fighting for change, who, in the words of Jack River, are pouring their youth into fixing the issues they didn't create. A lifetime in the making, the track draws from Jack River's long-held passion for climate and environmental issues and her tenacity for change. So without further ado, please welcome the amazing Jack River.
Thank you so much, Ella and Layla. My name's Holly, also known as Jack River. I'm joining from Yuin country, country of the Bodoang people. I'd like to acknowledge the song lines and storylines that are unbroken here. Sovereignty was never ceded on this land. I wrote this song after playing at the 2019 strikes. I played in front of 80,000 people on Gadigal country, and it was one of the most emotional moments of my life to see all of you striking. And yeah, as I saying that by pouring your youth into this movement, yeah, we're with you and I'm with you, and this online strike is so huge. Look at the numbers that you've pulled together for this. So yeah, this song is for you guys. This is an awkward Zoom performance. Can't wait to be back on real stages with you guys. But here we go.
I'm sick of violence. She's sick of hearing it's alright. She's sick of all the reasons and the lies. I'm tired of silence. I'm sick of violence. We're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna run to the riot. We are the youth, got the future on the phone. She don't like the way we're going. We're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna run to the riot. We are the youth, got the future on the phone. She don't like the way we're going. It started happening in December. There were children on the street screaming for the simple right to fucking live and breathe. They put a pill in her pocket and a gun to her head, and just like that, bang bang, she's dead. And so what you said, it's all done, just a part of the job until your fingers are numb. It's a systematic failure if you say out here with us. If you commit a murder, you belong behind bars. And we're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna run to the riot. We are the youth, got the future on the phone. She don't like the way we're going. We're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna run to the riot. We are the youth, got the future on the phone. She don't like the way we're going. I think it's really, really dumb, the way you criticize for fun, the way you gaslight hopeful teens, the way you're stealing all their dreams. You're making riches in your sleep. You're acting like it's yours to keep. I'm tired of silence. I'm sick of violence. We're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna run to the riot. We are the youth, got the future on the phone. She don't like the way we're going. We're gonna run through the streets tonight. We're gonna
Thanks, guys.
That was incredible. Thank you so much for that performance. Like your work within the music industry, specifically like in your advocacy for climate justice, is just so valuable and impactful. And we're just so happy to have you with us in this movement. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ella, and thank you all for doing what you're doing. It's so essential and you're shifting the country forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to be doing something really fun and interactive, which is a social media storm. So pretty much a social media storm entails using social media to capture the attention of influential politicians and to show our desire for climate justice. So as Leila said earlier, we are specifically going to be targeting Scott Morrison, Anthony Albanese, and Susan Lee. So the guide link is currently being sent to the chat, and that contains the Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook accounts of each of these politicians, as well as the hashtags and key messages to include in your posts. So using whatever social media you have access to, comment on their posts or make your own, tagging them, telling them about this movement, saying that we are demanding climate justice, the youth are rising, any of those key messages, but mainly just that we are demanding climate justice and mobilizing today to let them know that. So yeah, we're going to give you guys a couple minutes and have fun.
Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Lavender Lamborghini, roll up in a blue bikini. Bitches on the beaches looking super cute and freaky. All my friends are princesses, we keep it whipped and creamy. Ice cubes on our tongues because we like to keep it freezy. Lavender Lamborghini, get out on the right side. Chauffeur stayed at home because my girl wanted to ride. Looking luxe and tasting plush and feeling so alive. Wanna take it to the highway, come on, let's go for a drive. All my life, I've been waiting for a good time, a good time. Let me ride, let me ride. All my life, I've been waiting for a good time, a good time. So let me ride. Let me ride, let me ride, let me ride. All my life, I've been waiting for a good time. So let's ride. Bitches know they can't catch me. Cute, sexy in my ride, sporty. Those slugs know they can't catch me. Beep beep. So let's ride. Bitches know they can't catch me. Cute, sexy in my ride, sporty. Those slugs know they can't catch me. Beep So let's ride, let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Bubblegum pink Ferrari, yeah, I'm so bossy. Speeding like Alonso just to crush your party. People are going loco when I'm pulling up, taking your puppy. Don't think about consequences, cause they're never gonna stop me. What? All my life I've been waiting for a good time, a good time. Let me ride, let me ride. All my life I've been waiting for a good time, a good time.
Thank you. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I think that together, like especially today, we've really shown Australian politicians how urgently the climate crisis needs to be dealt with. So yeah, just like, even though it can't be a real life action, I mean, in person, you know, striking out on the streets, a social media storm can definitely still do the job. So now I'm going to be introducing our final speaker of the day. So Philip Wanzer is a Ngabul and Wurundjeri Murri person who has been actively involved in fighting for First Nations rights and aims to protect country. Phil's organising and campaigning are grounded in deep passion for country. In doing this for over a decade, Phil holds a strong belief in the necessity of decolonising and rooting ourselves in Indigenous ways of knowing, being and doing within the climate movement. They have been active in environmental campaigns to protect Gomeroi country, and they are the former national campaign and organising manager for Seed Mob, which is an Indigenous youth climate network. Phil is someone we can all look up to when fighting for climate justice, and I am so humbled to interview them this afternoon. So Phil, do you mind introducing yourself for us and telling a little bit about what you do? Oh, just a reminder, unmute.
Yamagaranghinda, Yajamari, Ngarrabul Widirai. So yeah, my name's Philip Murray. I'm a Ngarrabul and Widirai Murray from New England in northern New South Wales. And our country's all around the area around Glen Innes and out to Inverell, up to Ashford and the Demerrick River up there, so all around the rivers of the Northern Tablelands. And yeah, I think like most of the things that I was going to say, you just mentioned, so that was really nice. Thank you. Last year, so in addition to the things you're talking about there, last year I bought back a piece of our Ngarrabul country, just 20 acres on the eastern side of our country on the edge of the Great Dividing Range. So country that the bushfires had gone through at the end of 2019. And yeah, I'm doing work out on country on regeneration and revitalisation of country there as well.
Thank you. And do you think you could sort of elaborate or talk about some of the threats that are facing Aboriginal country right now?
Yeah, so I mean, all over this continent, there's the non-stop push for development and for expansion of the fossil fuel industry is threatening Aboriginal country everywhere. On our country, especially on our Gomeroi country, we have the threat from Santos in the Pilliga Forest and their plans to build a massive fossil gas field there. We also have in our Ngarrabul country, it's the country where the fires went through really severely at the end of 2019. Indeed, just down the road from my property is the state forest, and you see the logging trucks coming every day and clearing and logging a lot of the timber that has been burnt during the fires. And when we should be working on rehabilitating and revitalising that country, instead the logging industry and the people wanting to use that timber for biomass and those sort of things are clearing a lot of timber from those areas. So we've got an ongoing threat there, and indeed as well as that mountain range. So I'm a bit loud, am I? Okay. I'll move my microphone away a little bit. And yeah, we also have threats from dams, from the ongoing expansion of coal mining, on our country in the Liverpool Plains. And I guess all across Australia, places like the Northern Territory have, the government's trying to, is giving great amounts of support to companies that are trying to frack Aboriginal land in the Northern Territory without the consent of Aboriginal people there. The ongoing threat of the Adani coal mine in Wangan and Jagalingou country in central Queensland. So all over this continent, Aboriginal people are facing threats to our country, which indeed are threats to our survival as people and survival of our culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So why do you think the aspect of land back is such an important part of achieving climate justice?
There's a couple of different reasons for that. I think, firstly, the concept that Indigenous justice, climate justice, is innately tied up with social justice and ensuring that the negative effects of the fossil fuel industry and of climate change that Aboriginal people that are felt more and more severely by Aboriginal people, and indeed by people who are more closely connected to to environments where those fossil fuel activities are happening, but also where those impacts of climate change are most felt, things like bushfires and cyclones. And mentioned earlier about the tornado just south of our country down there earlier this morning. And I think that having constantly awareness in our minds is important, but also the Indigenous people worldwide control approximately 20% of the world's land mass, and that land contains 80% of the world's biodiversity. And the work that Indigenous people are doing all around the world to to maintain country and to manage country is really important for ensuring that we still have a livable planet in the future. The values that Indigenous people and our cultures hold are absolutely critical to the future of this planet, moving away from these individualistic and materialistic values of overconsumption, and looking to Indigenous people around the world, and our values of interconnectedness and interdependence are really vital to the survival of the human race. And if we look at, there was a report I read last week about Indigenous resistance to fossil fuels in the United States, and that has Indigenous resistance over the last little while has prevented 25% of the emissions that the United States would have been emitting. Indigenous resistance to oil, gas, and coal projects there. And we see that in Australia with things like resistance to Adani and to on and offshore oil and gas projects. They're delaying and pushing back these projects longer and longer. And every time these projects are delayed and pushed back, they are decreasing, increasing our chances of getting to zero emissions, which is what the planet needs. I think also Indigenous land is intricately tied up with our languages and our culture and our stories, and those stories and those languages and that culture contain knowledge that we need to survive the climate crisis. If we think about look around the world and think, which cultures on this planet have already survived periods of massive ecological and climate change in the past and have the knowledges and the wisdom to enable us to do that in the future. And Indigenous cultures, here and also around the world, contain that. Our languages and the names of places and those sorts of things that we have tell us what the country should be like, what a healthy country looks like. They tell us how waterways should be flowing, what animals should be in different places. The stories that we have tell us how people adapted and changed in the past to survive when massive climate change happened. And so, for all those reasons, I think land back needs to be at the core of our fight for climate justice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, especially the knowledge. And thank you. And I think we appreciate you being with us today and speaking on here.
No worries.
So thank you so much for everyone who came today. This has been absolutely incredible. This brings us to the end of our strike. So if you're a school student and you want to get involved in the SSFC organizing team, you can fill out a form that is going to be put in the chat right now. And so we'll be striking in person as soon as it's safe. And also a reminder for the upcoming election, remember that your voice is powerful. And just by speaking to those in your community about your concerns surrounding the climate crisis, you can initiate change. Follow us on social media, check out our website, or sign up to be an organizer if you're under 18 in order to stay updated with the really exciting actions that are going to be occurring in future. So thank you all so much and bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bubblegum pink Ferrari, yeah, I'm so bossy. Speeding like Alonso just to crush your party. People are going loco when I'm pulling up to your puppy. Don't think about consequences, cause they're never gonna stop me. What? All my life, I've been waiting for a good time, a good time. Let me ride my life. I've been waiting for a good time, a good time. So let me ride, let me ride, let me ride. All my life, I've been waiting for a good time. So let's ride. Bitches know they can't catch me. Cute, sexy, in my ride, sporty. Those slugs know they can't catch me. Beep beep, so let's ride. Bitches know they can't catch me. Cute, sexy, in my ride, sporty. Those slugs know they can't catch me. Beep beep, so let's ride. Boom, 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 hit me coming through the radio. Oh, watch me go zoom, zoom, zoom. Try to catch me, but you're too slow. Boom, 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 hit me coming through the radio. Oh, watch me go zoom, zoom, zoom. Try to catch me, but you're too slow, too slow, too slow.
Sadie wanted me to tell you she's sick and tired of your bullshit. She would just like for you to know you don't even know how to kiss. She didn't mean to make you cry. Well, those were her words, not mine. Sadie wanted me to tell you she could never be your girl. Sadie wanted me to let you know that you could never rule her world. Sadie, Sadie, I told him what you said. He said he doesn't care. She said she's sorry she couldn't save herself. She doesn't want to break your heart. She doesn't want to be known as